Hello, beloveds. So I figured I'd share what happened to me last year on this day. Last year, Christmas Day, 2021. So the Lord had saved my life. He's literally the reason why I'm here making this video. And I've decided to share this personal account with you guys. So last year I was invited to go take a swim by one of my friends. And I decided, why not? I've spent the entire year in front of my computer working, and I haven't gone anywhere, so I decided to go. So we went to a very popular tourist attraction in our country, and I stood on a platform while watching two of the gentlemen that came with me swimming across this body of water that's actually in the top of a dormant volcano. So while standing there on that platform, observing them swimming across, I was doing calculations in my head, wondering if I myself could make it across. Now, I later found out that I'd made a terrible miscalculation that would later cost me my life. So I started swimming across, and by the time that I reached the halfway point of this body of water, I was completely drained of energy. And this was because of two reasons. Number one, there was this very cold current of water that I didn't expect, that was running in the midst of this body of water, and it had a very adverse reaction to my body. And so my energy was depleted within a few minutes, very quickly. The second reason is I'd spent the entire year in front of my computer with little to no exercise whatsoever, and then did this very long distance swimming, which is very foolish on my part. Anyhow, when I had reached the halfway point in this water, I found out that I was a dead man. Yes, brothers and sisters, to the point where many times I feel as if I'm literally a phantom. Like my timeline has been altered, and it has been altered by the Lord. Because it's He who holds the keys of death and hell. He determines who lives and who dies, because He's God, He's the boss. You see, and He can do whatever He wants. And, that's one of the reasons why it pays greatly to be in close proximity, to have a very close relationship, and to always be in communication with Him. Because even before I started the swimming, I was talking with the Lord while doing the calculations. I even asked Him to carry me across. So it was no different being on land than being in the water, like literally moments away from my death. It was absolutely no different. If you guys get what I'm trying to say. Because of the relationship, the ongoing conversation that I'm always having with the Lord. So even while I found out that, wow, and it hits me as a surprise. And this experience taught me so many things. Like, majority of the people that have already died, did you know that most of them, they didn't just get up one morning and say, hey, you know what, today's a beautiful day, I think I'm going to die today. No. They were taken by complete surprise. And I can tell you that for a fact, because that's what it occurred. I was caught completely off guard. I was like, no way. Today? I was gonna die. I was meant to die today? Because another thing that I learned as well is that when you're going to die, people when they're going to die, aside from the ones that probably got shot in the head, got snuck up from behind and was caught off guard and got shot in the head, or those sudden deaths, apart from those, the majority of the people that have died, before they die, they are 100% sure that they're going to die. They know it. And that's one other thing that I've learned. And this is not my first experience of dying. My enemies have attempted to kill me on several occasions, several times, as I've mentioned before on this channel. So yeah, this had caught me by complete and total surprise. So I was asking the Lord while there in the water, what about all of those things that you've shown me that we're going to do together? I mean, you showed me that we're going to go out and help the helpless and to defend the weak. All of these things. What about these things? Yet I'm going to die here now? So I was asking Him about all of these things. So I was caught off guard properly. Some things I want to mention is, at this place, at this nexus point of leaving this dimension into the other world, into the other dimension, at that point, it is next to impossible for you to have any ego at all. Your mental capacity expands, and every action, every thought is of the highest truth. Your actions are of the highest truth. It's next to impossible for you to lie. or to exercise any kind of falsehoods whatsoever. That's my experience. And so I remember asking the Lord, is it even possible for me to make it to the other side of this shore? To the other side of this water? And then he replied, he told me, yes, but you will have to fight for your life. I remember him clearly saying that. And this was a heart-to-heart conversation. It wasn't words. There wasn't any time or any energy for words. And so I just want to explain real quick, for the ones who don't understand, when I said that I was dead. If any of you guys have ever attempted to do 100 push-ups, I've done in the past, right? And by the time that you reach the 50 mark, you would have already known if you can make it to 100 based off of how you feel, right? And the amount of energy that you have left. You will know for a certainty if you will make it to 100. And if you've already burnt out at 50, you'll know that the chances for you to make it to 100 is next to impossible. Well, in this scenario, in my experience of being in the water, it was exactly the same thing, basically. I knew without a shadow of a doubt that that was it for me, because I had absolutely no energy. And for me at the time, it was no different than attempting to swimming halfway across the Atlantic. That's how it had felt to me, based off of how I felt and the energy that I had left. Actually, I had zero, zilch. I had no energy left. That's why I'm telling you that I knew that that was it for me. But yet the Lord said, you can. That's the important part, brothers and sisters. The Lord said, yes, it's what He said. I'm telling you the truth. If I was a logical thinker, I wouldn't be here standing telling you guys this testimony here today. It was the Lord that said, yes, you can. And I took His words, because logically it was clearly impossible. I can't stress enough how impossible it is. And I can in no way, shape, or form completely convey to you what had occurred. But to everyone that have already had NDEs, they can relate to what I'm talking about. There's just some things that you can't communicate in words. You'd have to be there and to have the experience to understand what I'm saying. When I tell you that I was dead, and there was just absolutely no way I had any energy to swim that far to go over to the other side of the shore. Both shores were so far away that you could hardly see the people on both shores, from where I'm coming from and to where I'm going. It was a great distance. I was literally in the midst of the body of this water. And so I believe that the Lord had also given me this experience, allowed me to have it so that I can share it with anyone that in the future may come into a similar situation where it's life and death, that you can know that you can call upon the Lord. For the name of the Lord is a strong tower, and the righteous run into it and they're safe, right? So I remember also as well, I wasn't panicking anywhere near the level of panic that anyone would usually be doing in a situation like that. Nowhere near it. My panic level was out of 100% around 4 to 5%, to be accurate, around 4%, next to nothing. So I was at peace. The most thing that I was focused on, if I'm to be honest, was the communication with the Lord. The entire time I was just communicating with the Lord, and it was a heart-to-heart communication. You see, I was at peace, for I was also ready to go. And I knew that, for me, it was like what the Word of God says. To be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. And again, for me to die is gain, but for me to live is Christ. So either way I was fine, I was completely fine with it. I was ready to go. So that also is another message for people. You must always be ready, because you don't know when the time comes for the Lord to call you home. No one knows. And like I tell you, this came by complete and utter surprise that was my time. But the truth of the matter is, that was not my time for me to go. It doesn't matter how hard the enemy had tried to get me in that position, because I have a feeling that, I've asked the Lord since it occurred about it, and I haven't yet received an answer, because, since then I've gone over it 1,000 times in my mind. How in the world could I have made such a terrible miscalculation? But, whatever. So, I took the Lord's words, and I didn't let go. I figured I was going to use all of my energy until I started sinking, until I have nothing left. And so the Lord literally gave me energy to swim to a point where the two gentlemen that had swam in front of me across, that they could see me, and I managed to lift up my head, because at one point I'd felt some water starting to go into my mouth, And I know from experience that once water starts to get into your mouth, that's it for you. That would be bad. So I started spitting it out, and I managed to lift up my head literally when I was at my end. And when I say my end, I mean my end. I had nothing left. I felt as light as a feather. That means all of my energy out of my body was left. Even the death process had already kicked in. I could feel it. I could literally feel my spirit starting to ebb away, like to literally fade away from this dimension. I could feel it. And so I lift up my head and mustered with all the energy that I had left, the last bit of energy that I had left, to form one word, which was help. And God made it so these gentlemen heard me, and they didn't hesitate. They just jumped off and came for me. And they got me literally within just a few seconds before I started sinking. This place is so deep, this water is so deep that had I started sinking, they probably wouldn't have found my body. Because it was over 200 feet deep, and the water is dark down beneath. At the top it's beautiful, but down beneath it's dark and cold. And so they came and they brought me onto the shore, and I collapsed. And I remember I felt this sharp, excruciating pain which started from the bottom of my feet, and it just surged all throughout my body, all the way from the bottom of my feet to the top of my head. And it was the most painful feeling I've ever felt. I don't know what that was. But I also remember my friends coming over on a boat, and they were asking me a bunch of questions, and I was answering them, but I found out that it was in my head, because I had absolutely no energy at all, not even to form words. And so I found out then that you need energy to perform even the slightest action. I didn't even know that. Without energy, you can't even speak. I wanted to answer them. I wanted to say yes or no, but I couldn't even say yes or no. That's how depleted I was of my entire life force. And the death process was just starting to reverse. That's what was happening. And I didn't have enough energy yet to speak. I've never experienced that yet in my life, ever. Not being able to speak as a result of lack of energy. Energy, which God gives, beloveds. I've found that out, that even the very energy that you have, that even the very words, to be able to even form words, that's a gift, a great blessing from God. And so I'm telling you that this experience was very humbling. And for anyone who has also had an NDE, they can tell you this as well, that it's a very humbling experience. So afterwards, they took me in a boat and carried me across, and I went into the back of the car and rested for like 15 minutes, and another miracle happened. Remember, I had just literally went to the doorway of death, literally, right? To the point where even when I brought me back to the car, I had to just fall out. I felt horrible, indescribable. So I laid there, and within 15 minutes, beloved, immediately, in exactly 15 minutes, my energy was restored to not only how I was when I had first came there, but even better. Meaning I felt even better than when I had first came to the place. And that was miraculous. I know that that was done by angels. The angels did something to me. They gave me energy, because I felt better than even in the morning when I had came to the place. Had more energy. I literally got up immediately and went back to stand back on the same ledge to behold what had just taken place, to ponder what had just taken place. So yeah, brothers and sisters, that is my short testimony of how I died. I literally lost my life on Christmas Day, which I don't think is a coincidence at all. Because for anyone who knows the history of Christmas, it was first originated as a pagan festival in which they sacrifice animals and people. And so I'm telling you the truth that this happening to me on this day was not a coincidence. Because like I said, I have the ability to look a little bit deeper into things than the average human being. But whatever they have tried has failed miserably, because it's the Lord who's in control, and He determines what goes. I thank you all for listening. That is all I'm going to share for now. Have a blessed Christmas.